We're now going to talk about becoming an adult, including topics like adolescence, behaviour, sexuality and socializing. Entering adolescence and emerging into adulthood is sometimes a challenging time for parents of a child with a disability. The physical and hormonal changes of adolescence can sometimes bring more assertive and challenging behaviour from some children with a disability. If such issues do arise, there are some avenues to learn more about how to address this. Sometimes families may wish to undergo a parenting program. There are general parenting courses available, including the more disability-targeted PPP Stepping Stones program. More information is on the following slide. Sometimes a behaviour modification plan devised with the help of education and psychology experts is useful. Social stories is another great way to communicate desired behaviour for children with intellectual disabilities and autism. In extreme cases, families may be referred for the Explore Behaviour Service via the NASC for highly specialised assistance. Socialising and making friends is another common concern for parents of a child with a disability, particularly an intellectual disability and autism. Getting along with other people is important for our children's own mental and emotional well-being, as well as their social, recreational, study and employment prospects. There are some NGO organisations with expertise in social skills programs, and many organisations who provide support, leisure and recreational activities. Contact Disability Connect for more information about this. The development of sexuality in youth with a disability can sometimes worry parents, though this is a normal process that occurs in any youth. If sexuality issues are of concern, there is some specialised agencies and resources to assist parents in providing appropriate support and information to their young children. Schools are also an excellent source of assistance on disability sexuality issues. We're now going to talk about leaving school, the transition to community. Families often find that for many years, school has been not only an education source, but a hub of support and information. The prospect of leaving school presents parents with exciting new challenges and also some concerns. In New Zealand, the minimum age for leaving school is 16 years, and the maximum age for schooling is 21 years, and this is typically in a special school environment. The student must leave school at the end of the year in which they turn 21. Whether your child is educated in a mainstream or a special school environment, there are certain preparations that need to be made for leaving school. The Ministry of Education has developed the National Transition Guidelines, which most New Zealand schools now have in place. These guidelines provide specialist educators, schools and parents with best practice information to support effective transition planning for students with special education needs. The guidelines are derived from the following evidence-based best practice principles. Begin planning early, around the age of 14 years. Placing the learner and the family at the centre. Building partnerships between schools and communities. Ensuring transition plans are embedded in education and community settings. Identifying and addressing barriers to providing information and support. Differentiating between the learner and the family's needs, including life skills and transition planning. Making use of community settings. And regularly monitoring and evaluating transition plan outcomes. So the student with a disability will have an individual career plan, which they, their family and education professionals have contributed to. This plan will help guide the pathway for post-schooling life. Depending on personal choice, the level of disability and whether or not the student is OARS funded, that's Ongoing Resourcing Scheme funded, There are some post-schooling pathways for families to consider. These include tertiary education at Unitec, Manukau Institute of Technology, university or tertiary institution. The tertiary institutions vary throughout New Zealand. Employment if possible, a vocational day program or micro-enterprise. Let's talk about each in a little more detail. We're now going to talk about tertiary education. Some students who are able and interested to continue learning life skills and basic skills of employment may choose to do a Unitec or MIT course in Auckland. Tertiary institutions throughout New Zealand have other names, but in Auckland, Unitec and MIT are popular choices. There are some other tertiary courses available elsewhere in New Zealand. At Unitec in Mount Albert, for example, there are currently 3 courses. Unitec runs regular supported learning talk and tour workshops to provide families with more detailed information. You need to book for these tours. Manukau Institute of Technology in Manukau, Auckland. This tertiary institute offers a wide range of courses and degrees to the community, including, of course, people with a disability. They have a disability support office to help students get the full benefits of studying and to access their services such as note-taking, sign language interpreters, dictaphones, Alpha Smart keyboards, plus information, advocacy and advice on the interview process and exams and funding. Contact the Disability Support Office for more information about studying at MIT. Pricing and criteria for MIT and Unitec courses are likely to change over time. Please check their website for updated information. Unitec and MIT have access to an agency called Polyemp on site. Polyemp helps support graduates of these courses into suitable employment. Some students who are able may choose to attend university. ORS funding, ongoing resourcing scheme funding, cannot be taken to a tertiary learning environment such as university, Unitec or MIT. Now we're going to talk about employment. Employment for people with a disability is an issue gaining momentum in New Zealand as part of our rights-based social model of disability. For physical, mental, emotional and financial health, employment, part-time, casual or full-time, is ideal. There are some specialised disability employment agencies who can assist students to find employment after school or after completing tertiary courses. We're going to talk about micro-enterprise. Micro-enterprise is where a person with a disability sets up their own business. Some examples of micro-enterprise include a dog walking business or a business feeding pets when the owners are away or overseas. One young man has a successful business making and selling dog biscuits in New Zealand. Micro-enterprise can be a good way for a person with a disability to achieve gainful occupation and income. We're now going to talk in more detail about the transition service and vocational programs. This information relates to the Auckland process for transition and vocational programs. Processes vary outside Auckland. Ongoing resourcing scheme funded students, either high or very high needs funded, are eligible for a 1-year transition service funded via the Ministry of Social Development. If they are a New Zealand citizen or permanent resident, currently living in New Zealand, aged between 16 and 21 years, funded by ORS and in their final year of schooling. The transition service is available only once for a period of 1 year. So this process is designed for students in their final year of school. This service is designed to help families navigate the leaving school process for their disabled young adult child, and if agreed, place the student in an appropriate post-schooling vocational program. Vocational programs are day activity programs run by contracted disability organisations in the community. Activities range from swimming, bowling, walking, movies, trips to community events, and to facilities such as museums. Some programs engage students with practical projects such as gardening and lawn mowing. Programs run during the day from about 9 a.m. until about 3 p.m. for 48 weeks of the year. The Oars-funded student with a disability and their family may choose a transition coordinator. In a mainstream school setting, the student and their family should be advised of the transition coordinator service if the student is Oars-funded. If you are not told, please ask your school about this. Special schools commonly hold information evenings for senior students and their families on the topic of transition. There are 13 transition coordinator staff in Auckland, working for 9 different agencies. A transition plan is agreed to, and in the final year, the transition coordinator begins to form a picture of the disabled student, their needs, their strengths and their weaknesses, and what they envisage for the future. The family and education professionals also contribute to this process. Then the transition coordinator begins to make suggestions about possible vocational day programs which may be appropriate for the student if this is the pathway that's agreed to. A short list is made and families might visit 3 or 4 programs to decide if it might be the right placement for their child. Once a decision is made regarding the ideal day program, the student is brought in for initial visits, gradually increasing in frequency and duration until, by the end of their schooling year, they attend for up to 1 day per week, ideally. The enrolment process is arranged by the program manager. The student needs to feel happy in their environment with the activities provided, and the day program need to feel that they can meet that student's needs. Once the school year finishes, the student begins at the program for the agreed number of days. This may be between 2 to 5 days per week. It's important to know that some students may not be enrolled in a program for all 5 days of the week, so other activities and supervision need to be planned for. There are 1 or 2 agencies who will provide a type of transition service to non-Oars funded students, but places are very limited, and this varies regionally throughout New Zealand. If your child is not Oars funded, but you would like guidance on the leaving school process, contact Disability Connect for more targeted information. We can put you in contact with the appropriate local agency, who may be able to help you. Disability Connect runs seminars on the complex topic of transition out of school. We also run the annual Transition Expo, where most of the service providers, such as transition coordinators, vocational day program providers, and leisure and recreation providers, have a stall. We run the Transition Expo once a year, normally in August. The seminars are run regularly. Contact us for more information.